What's going on, Spurs Mafia? Slow news day, middle of July, end of July. But the Spurs did announce a new assistant coach to the staff. Well, he's not really a new guy. He's been around the team for a long time. His name is Will Hardy. He started as an intern uh, all the way back in 2010. He's a solid coach, solid basketball mind. Pop really likes him, so he'll be on the bench. And then they also announced some other guy, no prior coaching experience I had seen, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Will Hardy is gonna have a great showing on the Spurs bench, I think. Seriously though, Tim Duncan. I mean, that's gonna be fun, man. Like he's actually, so somebody said it on Twitter. This isn't really changing his life very much. He's still like shagging rebounds for Drew Eubanks. He's just gonna get paid for it now. Um, and he's been around this team a lot. We haven't seen him on the sidelines because that he's been doing other things, but um, clearly he felt it was time for this step in his career, and he was willing to take on the extra commitment of being an assistant coach because it is an extra commitment for him. Um, but it's really cool to see, and it's going to be so much fun to see Tim Duncan on the sideline in San Antonio. Um, yeah, somebody said Tony's next. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me though if within a couple of years all of those guys were on the Spurs bench, Tim, Tony, and Manu. I think Tony's going to focus a little bit on the team that he owns right now. I think Manu might be itching to get back in, so we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, Tim Duncan and huddles. The Spurs went from, you know, oh, they lost so many assistant coaches. What are they going to do for assistant coaches? And yeah, they just went and got the greatest power forward of all time to be their assistant coach. Yeah, Yak Pertl. I actually talked to Yak Pertl about what it's like to learn from Tim Duncan, and he didn't give me any specifics, but he said all three of those veteran big men, LaMarcus Aldridge at the time, Pau Gasol, and Tim Duncan, were educating. And the Spurs have a culture of educating their guys and continual improvement. So it's adding Tim Duncan to the day-to-day function of the franchise. Game days is big. It's a big thing. He's probably among the best basketball minds of all time, certainly the best basketball players of all time. And there are just great stories about like him coaching up opponents in the game. Like I forget who it was. I'll find it later, but he tried to move on Tim Duncan. Timmy blocked it, and he was like, "You got to get your shoulder into me a little bit more. Like you got to create some separation." And I think he legitimately just wants to see guys get better. And he was on such a higher level that he could do that in a game. Just tell a guy how to beat him next time. But now it's just him and the Spurs, and it's I mean, it's such a God, he's excited. It's such a cool thing. Such a cool thing. I did see Kawhi wearing his Spurs ring to the fight. That was a little odd. And at that fight, apparently, Kawhi sent Uncle Dennis over to remind Skip Bayless that he has a name that's not number 2. And I can't believe this, but I think I have to stand for Uncle Dennis. I mean, that's hilarious. Like walking up on Skip Bayless ringside, being like, "Hey, what's up, dude? We won." Like that's a power move. Uncle Dennis, I don't like him, and I don't know if I respect him, but I fear him and I honor his ability to just do whatever he wants to get done. Um, I mean, they got what they wanted, right? Uh, and we had another report this morning from I don't know if it's really a report because it's Stephen A. Smith saying people are saying, and then saying that he's not sure at all if it's true. Uh, but he basically said Uncle Dennis was asking for planes and houses and guaranteed endorsements from the Lakers and the Raptors. Which, I mean, that's kind of a boss move. Like I can't even front. That's kind of funny. If he was just straight up like, yeah, like what can you throw in to sweeten this? Can you give me a plane? What? It's probably he probably didn't actually ask for like a plane. It was probably like, can I use the team plane whenever? But still, like, and again, Stephen A. just being like, people in NBA circles are talking about it. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if in the coming days we heard more about it. He said that we're likely to because they pissed off two teams in these negotiations. And if they were asking those two teams for things that are not allowed in the collective bargaining agreement, um, that's a problem. And then Stephen A. also correctly said, then it turns into a question of what did the Clippers give up to get him? Like what concessions did Steve Ballmer and the Clippers make outside of, so that allow them to circumvent the cap, basically, to give a player more incentives to come than is allowed in the CBA. So that'll be interesting to follow. At this point, like I, I can't even hate. Yeah, like Uncle Dennis is kind of an evil genius. He's everything has worked. Everything he has, his master plan has come to fruition. Um, and the idea of him pulling up on Skip Bayless on fight night is so funny. It's so funny. Like I it's like that Onion story, like person you hate, heartbreaking. Person you hate made a great point. That's how I feel anytime Skip Bayless or Uncle Dennis says anything or does anything smart. Um, so that'll be a fun story to keep an eye on. And then also in kind of agent drama, today we had Rich Paul on Jalen and Jacoby. Um, he was asked about Marcus Morris, and basically he said, "Yeah, like we had a deal on the table with the Clippers, advised him to take it, he didn't take it. Then we got a deal with the Spurs, advised him to take it, he didn't take it, or well, he did take it, uh, and then he changed his mind, and Rich Paul wasn't down with that. Which it's kind of funny to think of Rich Paul as the voice of reason. Um, it's like that's, but I guess um, and that was a bad look for Rich Paul. And if you want to torch your relationship with the Pelicans for a player like Anthony Davis, sure, you can do that. But you don't want to torch your relationship with the Spurs as an agent for a player like Marcus Morris, who's a good player, but not the kind of good player that you would completely burn your relationship with one of the most storied franchises out there to help him go to the Knicks. Um, and I mean, how must Marcus Morris be feeling now? Uh, he went from competing in the West on a Spurs team to uh, competing for playing time with uh, Julius Randle and Bobby Portis, and he could have been getting coached by Tim Duncan. So, wish you all the best, Marcus Morris. See how it works out for you, but clearly, um, the bag in New York spoke to him, and nothing his agent would have said could have changed his mind. So, happens in this league. But Spurs are going to be fine without Marcus Morris. They're going to be fine pretty much for the rest of the time, I think. Like, I really can't see the wheels falling off this Spurs. I don't know if dynasty is the right word, but the wheels aren't falling off anytime soon. Like, they they had a couple of years with this whole Kawhi thing where it was like, 5 regular season wins less than they normally get. Um, but they're going to be back competing with this young core, and I think that's part of the reason Tim Duncan wants to be there as an assistant coach, because he sees this young core and he sees the potential. He wants to work with these guys and inspire them and teach them, and guide them. And he's going to be back on the sidelines in San Antonio. That's a really special thing, and hard not to be excited. I haven't seen anything about DeMar and his potential extension. That I don't know. I don't think they will, just based on the young talent that they have and the positions that they have those players at. I think they really want to give the reins to DeJounte Murray and Derek White and Lonnie Walker. And a player like DeMar DeRozan isn't necessarily the best player to pair with them. But we'll see. I honestly don't expect them to extend him. I think Lonnie's capable of playing the 3. Interesting. Realtor drama. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea if DeMar is going to stay or go. If they're going to try to trade him or if they're going to try to extend him. If it was me making the decision, I would try to trade him. And it's nothing against DeMar DeRozan. It's just a matter of, if you don't want to extend him, if he's not in the long-term plans for your franchise, and if he's going to be one of the better free agents next year, it would make sense to get what you can for him. So we'll see what they do. There are probably a couple teams that are hungry for star talent, that might be willing to part with some assets for a guy like DeRozan, especially if the Spurs took on a bad contract or something. But, the Spurs have time with that. But the fact that they haven't worked out an extension yet, to me, that indicates that the Spurs don't really want to extend him. Or that DeMar doesn't really want to extend with the Spurs. So we'll see. But one thing we know for sure is that next year Tim Duncan will be an assistant coach on the San Antonio Spurs. And that's exciting. That's special. So with that, I'm going to leave you. As always, hit me up for things you want to hear about, things you want to talk about. Go Spurs, go.